Hello guys, welcome to the next session of developing e-commerce application from scratch using Angular and Spring Boot. In the last session we discussed on how we can modify our add product API so that we can upload the images as well. So till now we have done all the backend part which is required to upload the images, and we have done all the required changes on our backend side. So if you see previously we were just using a request body for our API, but now we are using a multi-part request so that we can upload our product details, that means a product JSON, as well as we can upload all the images files. So if you see, we have this multi-part file array, so which basically means that we can upload multiple images at the same time. So this is what we have done in the last session. Now in this session what we are going to see, we are going to see how we can use these API from our UI side, that means from our Angular side. So over here, let me just go to the Google Chrome first and let me just show you what we have right now and how we are going to implement this particular change. So let me just first of all log in with the admin. So let me just tell you, this add product functionality is basically applicable only to the admin. That's why we have to just log in with the admin only. For normal user, this functionality is not applicable. So we are not going to give access to the normal user to this functionality. So let me just try to log in with the admin and let me just go to this add new product. Now on the previously we have done this left hand side, so which basically accepts some basic details from the user, and if we just click on add product, it will just save these details to the database. But similarly now we have to focus on this right hand side, which is our image area. So in this image area what we are going to do is we have basically three different parts. So I'm not going to create one long session. Instead I'm just going to divide these into a small three sessions. So in this session what we are going to see is how we can just simply create one normal button which will allow us to choose the files, and whatever file we will choose and whatever information we will fill in this form, and when we click on the add product, so this information and all the chosen files will get stored into a database. So this is the very first thing that we are going to see in this session. In the next session what we are going to see is whatever file we are going to choose, we are going to show that image previews over here in this below area. So we are going to show the previews of the images that we have chosen, so that if we want to remove any of the image, then we can remove that image as well. So in the next session we are going to see that, and in the last session, that means in the third session, we are going to see how we can implement one drag and drop area, so that if admin wants, then admin can drag and drop images as well. Alongside, if admin wants, then admin can choose the image with the help of browse button as well. So all these things we are going to develop in a phased manner. So let's focus on very first area, that is giving a browse button over here. So let's see how we can do that. So first of all, to do this, what we have to do is, let me just go to the VS Code. So let me just go inside this src, then app, and let me just go to this add a new product component. Inside this add new product component, let me just go to this add a new product dot component dot html file. Inside this HTML file, if you see, previously we just used one normal text which is the image area. So instead of this image area, now what we have to do is we have to write some HTML code. So let me just remove this image area text, and then let me just give one normal input tag. So input tag, so input, and let me just give a colon, and type will be a file. So let me just give input type is equals to file, like this. And this name and ID as of now we don't require, so let me just remove that one. And now as we are going to choose a multiple images, so we are going to allow admin to choose multiple images at the same time. So for that we have to just give one attribute that is called as a multiple, like this. And then let me just give a value is equals to select, like this. And then lastly I'm just going to give a name to this my input field. So let me just give the name as select file. So this is the name that we are not going to use right now, but in the next session we are going to use that name. So that's why I just added that name. and then we have to give one event as well. So that event will be a change event. So let me just give that event. So inside the brackets, let me just give a change event is equals to, and then over here inside these double quotes, we have to give a name of the function that we want to call. So let me just give any name. So we can give any name. So let me just use on file selected, and that function will take one parameter, and that parameter will be a event. So we have to give dollar event. So this thing we have to give exactly same, which is a dollar event. And the function name you can give any function name. So this function name will basically get called whenever we will click on that choose file button or browse button. Whenever we will click on that, this function will get called. So now this function as of now we haven't created, but let me just first of all save these, and let me just see whether it is compiled. Yes, it is compiled. And now let me just go back to the Google Chrome, and let's see. We are able to see this button, which is a choose files button. As of now this button will not work, obviously. As of now it will just open the window, but as of now it will not choose any file, because we don't have that right data. So let me just first of all do one thing. Let me just keep some files on my desktop, so that it will be very easy for us to upload the images. So let me just take one image, for example. So let me just take this image. This is one of my thumbnail, which is for my Java tutorial. So let me just control copy this, and let me just go to the desktop, and then let me just on the desktop let me just paste it. So as of now it is not working from over here. So let me just do one thing. Let me just go to the Google Images, and then let me just download one image. That will be very easy for us. So let me just download any image, let's suppose iPhone, and let me just go to the images, and let me just quickly download one image. Yes, so let me just save image as, and let me just go to the desktop, and let me just give the name as iPhone, like this. And now let me just choose file, desktop. As of now if you see like nothing is working. I mean, anyway it will not work because we haven't created that function yet. So now we have to create the function that is called as a on file selected. So let me just go back to the VS Code, and then let me just go to this add new product.component.ts file. Inside this ts file we have to create that function. So let me just quickly show you how we can create that as well. So after this add product, let me just add one on file selected, and this function is going to take one event. So let me just give the name as event only, and make sure this is the name, this name is exactly same as you have mentioned in your HTML. So this name should be exactly same. And now as of now let me just do one thing, console.log, and let me just use event like this. And now let me just save this. Let's first of all see whenever we select any file, what it basically prints on our console. Let me just see whether my compilation is done or not. So yes, my compilation is done, and previously yes, no any issue. My compilation is done now. Let me just go back to the Google Chrome. Let me just go to the console, and let me just do one thing. Let me just choose a file which is a iPhone, and now if you see on console we are able to see the event. So now inside this event, if you just open this event, there is one object that is called as a target. So let's open that target, and then inside this target we should be able to see something called as a files. So let me just find out. Yes, so we are able to see one array that is called as a files. Now if you see inside these files, we have all the files which we have selected. As of now I have only one file because I have selected only one file, but if we have multiple files, all the multiple files will be listed over here. Now we are able to see all these things, like we are able to see the name of the image and all the details like last modified date, and many more information we are able to see which is related to the file. So this file we are going to use, and we are going to upload these particular files to the backend or to the server. So for this, how I'm just going to implement this is, let me just first of all add one if condition, and inside this if condition I will just check whether any file is exist or not. So I will just do event dot target. So this particular event, inside that event we have to go to the target, and then we have to go to the files. If those files are present, then and only then I am just going to execute this particular function. Now inside this, let me just use event dot target dot files, and I'm just going to use a 0th index. I'm just going to use a 0th index, and then whatever 0th index I have, I'm just going to store it inside one variable. So let me just use it as a const file is equals to event dot target dot files and 0th index of that array. Now what I'm just going to do is, I'm just going to push this particular file inside my product details. So if you see, previously we have created one product, then inside the same product I'm just going to add those images, but I'm not going to add those images directly. Before that, I'm just going to process those images. So what do I mean by process is, I'm just going to create one object which will contain the image itself, and alongside it will contain URL of the image itself. So why I'm just going to use a URL? So URL is not going to help us in current session, but in the next session, as I discussed previously, in the next session we are going to show the preview of the images. So whenever we have to show a preview of the images, in that case we require the URL. So that's the reason I'm just going to store it in that way. So what I'm going to do is, whichever image I will receive, I will create one object from that image, which that object will contain my image file itself. Alongside it will also contain a URL of that image also, so that it will help us to preview the images. Right now, whenever I'm just saying these things, it might be a bit confusing, but I will just explain every single thing step by step. So for this, let's keep this as it is right now, and let's go to the our src. Inside the src we have one folder that is called as a model. So let me just add a new file inside this model, and let me just give the name as, let's suppose, file dash handle dot model dot ts. So you can give any name. So this is the convention that I basically follow. And then what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to use one interface. So let me just use export interface, and let me just give the name as file handle, like this. Inside this, there will be first of all one file which will be of type file, and then there will be a URL. So let me just use URL which will be of type safe URL. So let me just use a safe URL. Now this safe URL basically comes from @angular/platform hyphen browser. So this safe URL comes from this import. So if auto import doesn't work, you can just write this particular line. And now our model is created. Let me just close this particular file, and now let me just come back to our on file selected function. Inside this, let me just come back, let me just give some space, and let me just write a few lines. So over here, what I'm going to write is, I'm just going to create first of all a object. So let me just create object of my file handle. So how I'm just going to do is, let me just use const, and let me just give it as file handle. You can give any name, this is just a object name, and file handle is basically of type file handle. And again we have to import this file handle, so you can just import like this. And now let me just come back, and is equals to curly brackets. Inside these curly brackets we are getting now error. So let me just resolve those error. So over here we have to first of all assign a file. So let me just give file colon file. So over here, this file is nothing but a key that we have used inside this file handle. So this file is nothing but a key that we have used inside this file handle, and this particular file is nothing but a file that we have just we are just using on line number 40. So just don't need to worry about these names. Maybe if you want, you can give different names, but as of now I'm just going to keep it as simple as possible. But if you find it confusing, you can just give a different name. So you can give different name over here on line number 40, and you can give different name on line number 4 inside this file handle. But remember, from left hand side basically comes from file handle, and right hand side is the name of the actual file that we want to upload. And now let me just give a comma, and then we have to give a URL as well. So URL is nothing but a URL of the image that we have to create. So again, to create a URL, we have to use a DOM sanitizer. So before using it, we have to inject it. So let me just show you how we can inject that DOM sanitizer as well. So let me just come to the constructor, and let me just give a comma. Let me just use private and sanitizer. You can give any name which will be of type DOM sanitizer, like this. And now we have to use this sanitizer that we have just injected to create a URL. So let me just show you how we can use this dot sanitizer dot bypass security trust URL. So we have to just find yes. So bypass security trust URL. So we have multiple similar things, so make sure you are just using a correct one. And then let me just give these brackets. The first it is basically takes one parameter. We have to pass a value. So for this value, what we have to do is we have to just pass a window, not windows, window dot URL dot create object URL, and inside the brackets we have to pass the file. So it will basically create URL from this particular file. So now we have done with the creating object of file handle. So now only thing that we have to do is we have to push this file handle object into our product object. But again, inside this product object we haven't used a images. So let me just go to this product model, and then let me just add product images, which will be of type file handle, like this. And again, there will be a multiple files, so we have to give it as a array. So let me just give these array brackets as well. Now let me just close this model, and if you see, now we are getting error on the line number 16. This is because it is now asking like we haven't done anything for the images, so we have to add image as well. So let me just add product image is equals to, and as of now let me just give it as a empty array. But inside the same array we are going to push our file handle object. So let me just use this dot product images dot push, and we have to use a file handle. So file handle object that we just created over here on line number 45, the same object we are going to push inside our product images array. Now let me just save these things. Now we have just done a small part. Again, there are few things which we have left back. Now over here, if you see, like on the API, if you just go to this add a new product API, if you see previously we were using the request body, but right now we have changed this, and we are currently using a multi-part form data. So now on the UI side as well, we have to configure this. So to configure this, first of all we have to go to the services. So let me just go to this product service .ts. Inside this product service, let me just first of all change the type. So now we are not going to send a product details directly. Instead, we are just going to send the form data. So let me just first of all change a type over here, and let me just make it as a form data. And now let me just save this code. And again, only thing that we have to do inside these services. So let me just close these. Now if you see, when we come back to the add a new product.component.ts file, we are getting the errors. So now over here, if you see, like it is giving the error, like it is basically saying that we cannot send form data directly. We cannot send product details directly. We have to convert these product details into a form data, and then that form data we can send it as a parameter. So let me just show you how we can convert these product details into a form data. so that we can send these details to the backend. So again, to do this, I'm just going to create a new function. So let me just add one new function, and let me just make it as prepare form data. So this is going to take one product as an input, and it is going to return us a form data. So let me just give a return type as a form data like this. And now inside this function, let me just create first of all object of a form data. So let me just give const form data is equals to new form data like this. Now inside this form data, we have to append our all details. So let me first of all append my normal JSON file. So let me just show you how we can do this. So we have to use a form data dot append. Inside this, we have to give a different parameters. So very first parameter that we have to give is name of the property. So name of the property, we have to take it from the backend. So let me just go to the IntelliJ, and over here the very first property that we have to attach is a product. So let me just copy this name and let me just paste this inside a single quote. And then the second parameter that we have to give is we have to give actual details. So again, let me just write some lines, and I will just first of all write the lines and then I will just explain you. So again, over here we have to create a new blob. So blob is basically you can just consider it as a what do we say, we are not going to send a JSON directly. Instead we are going to pack it inside a blob, and that blob we are going to send it to the backend. If you don't know, don't need to worry about right now, we are going to see every single thing. So we are going to create a new blob. Inside this, let me just first of all give a normal bracket. Inside the normal bracket, we have to give JSON dot stringify. So we have to stringify our product. So let me just stringify the product details that we have received, and after that we have to give its type as well. So let me just give a type is equals to, and the type is application slash JSON like this. And now let me just give a semicolon at the end. So right now we have just appended our product details, but we haven't appended our image files. So we have to append our image files as well. So let me just append form data dot append. So we have to use append for product images as well, but again we cannot use a product we cannot just write simply append, because remember we have the multiple images. So we have to append all the images one by one. So that's the reason we require a for loop as well. So we have to take a for loop. So let me just use a for loop as well. So let me just use a for, and inside this let me just give a var I is equals to 0. I should be less than product dot product images. So I should be less than product images dot length, and then I plus plus like this. And now inside this for loop, we have to use a form data dot append, and again this particular append takes some parameter. So very first parameter is nothing but the name of the property. So name of the property is image file. So let me just copy this and let me just paste it over here. After that, let me just give actual image that we want to upload. So over here again we have to give some parameters. So let me just first of all give product dot product images of I dot file like this, and comma we have to give product dot product images of I dot file dot name like this. And now let me just save this code. Now again, we have done multiple things inside this prepare form data. So maybe you can just take some pause and just give a focus on these brackets and comma, because we have a lot of things over here, and maybe any single mistake may lead you to some errors. So make sure you are just giving all the brackets correctly. And at the end, now we have prepared our form data. So whatever form data we have prepared, we have to just return that form data. So let me just return a form data. So let me just use form data like this, and now our prepare form data function is done. The next thing that we have to do is we have to just call this prepare form data function from our add product function. So let me just quickly show you how we can do that as well. So let me just do one thing. Let me just come back and let me just use this dot prepare form data. It is basically going to take the product details, so this dot product, and it is going to return us a form data again. So let me just use product form data is equals to, and whatever product form data we will receive, we are going to send that product form data to the backend like this. And now let me just save this code, and now we have just done every single thing, and we are completely done with this basic functionality. So now we can just test it. Let me just go back to my IntelliJ first, and let me just restart the application. Make sure your application, your backend application is up and running. And then once my application is started, let me just come back to the VS Code, and let me first of all see whether my application is compiled successfully or not. So as of now, I'm just going to stop the current running instance of my application. I'm just going to start a new application. I'm just going to restart the application, so that if there is any error, and then I can just see it on the terminal. So let me just give a second so that my application starts, and now my application is compiled successfully and there is no any error on my console. So let me just go back to the Google Chrome, and let me just first of all close these, and let me first of all add some product details. So let me just add the product details, or first of all let me just refresh this as well, because yeah. So let me just add a product details like Samsung, or maybe let's suppose iPhone 7. And then product description itself, again an expensive iPhone. Actual price, let's suppose 10,000, and then discounted price is 9,500. And let me just choose a file, this iPhone file. And as of now, we are not going to see any preview and everything, because we haven't implemented that. But as of now, if you see, we are able to see this name iphone.jpg, and let me just click on add product. And as of now, if you see, like our details are saved, our form is reset, and it should be like details should be saved. So let me just go to the DB. So let me just open a Mysql Workbench. You can just open anything that we are currently, you are currently using, and let me just refresh these. So now first of all, let me just show you the table, product table. So let me just go to the product table, and if you see, we have the product like iPhone 7, an expensive iPhone. And if you see, the product ID is equals to 1. So product ID is 1. So again, then we can just go to this image model table. If you see, there is one image as well, and the ID of the image is 2, and the name of the image is iPhone .jpeg, and we have some picture byte as well, and we have its type as well, that is a JPG. So now product ID is 1 and image ID is 2, so there should be some relationship between them. So if you just go to this product underscore image table, then if you see, like product ID is equals to 1 and image ID is equals to 2. So this table is basically responsible to maintain the relationship between the products and all the images. So this is how it basically works, and this is how we can make use of our API inside our Angular application. So in the next session, we will see how we can show the preview of images as well, and after that we are going to see a drag and drop functionality as well. So I hope you got an idea around this, like how we can upload the images from our front end, that is Angular, to the back end. And if you still have any questions, let me know into a comment section and I will try my best to help you out in that case. And I hope you enjoyed this session, and I'll see you in the next session.